I just wanted a quiet walk in the woods. But everything changed when I met a tall and mysterious stranger. I had an unspoken desire to explore his body, but just as my feelings deepened, secrets from Michael's past threatened to pull us apart. I wasn't planning on going deep into the woods that day. At 63, I'd grown to appreciate the simple pleasures in life, quiet walks, nature, and the solitude that comes with being away from the noise of the world. The air was crisp, the sky a brilliant blue, and the tall trees offered shade as I strolled through the forest. It was peaceful, the kind of peace I craved. But as I wandered further into the woods, something happened that I could never have anticipated, something that would change everything. I had just rounded a bend when I saw him, a tall, dark figure leaning against a tree. He was striking with broad shoulders and a strong frame that seemed to dominate the space around him. His eyes met mine, and there was something about the way he looked at me. He wasn't like anyone I'd ever encountered before. There was an intensity in his gaze, something both powerful and gentle, and it stopped me in my tracks. Didn't expect to run into anyone out here, he said, his voice deep and smooth with a hint of amusement. I managed to smile, though my heart was already racing. Neither did I. We stood there for a moment, the silence between us thick with tension. I could feel my pulse quicken, and a heat spread through me that I hadn't felt in years. There was something about him, something magnetic, something that drew me in despite the little voice in my head that told me to be cautious. But caution seemed far away now, as his gaze never left mine, and I found myself taking a small step closer. Mind if I join you, he asked, his lips curving into a smile that was both warm and confident. I hesitated for only a second before nodding, surprised at how much I wanted his company. Sure. Why not? We walked together side by side, our footsteps almost in sync as we move deeper into the woods. The air seemed to change, become thicker, more intimate. The conversation was easy, light at first, but there was an underlying current between us that couldn't be ignored. Every now and then our arms would brush against each other, sending a spark through me that I couldn't explain. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years, and the more time I spent with him, the more I realized I didn't want this walk to end. We reached a small clearing, the sunlight streaming through the trees, casting a golden glow over everything. He stopped, turning to face me, and I could feel the shift in the air, the way everything seemed to slow down. His eyes were locked on mine, and I could see the desire there, the way his gaze darkened, filled with a hunger that made my breath catch in my throat. You're different, he said softly, his voice low and intimate. There's something about you. I swallowed hard, feeling the tension building between us. I could say the same about you. He stepped closer, his hand reaching out to brush a strand of hair from my face, his touch gentle yet deliberate. The moment his fingers grazed my skin, it was like electricity coursed through me, and I felt my body respond in ways I hadn't expected. There was something so raw, so powerful about the way he looked at me, the way he touched me, and I knew without a doubt that we were crossing into dangerous territory. But I didn't care. I didn't want to stop. His hand slid down, resting lightly on my arm, his thumb stroking my skin as he moved even closer. I could feel the heat of his body, the way he towered over me, and it sent a rush of desire through me that was impossible to ignore. My breath quickened, and I could feel my heart racing, my pulse pounding in my ears. You're beautiful, he murmured, his lips so close to mine now that I Could feel the warmth of his breath. I've never met anyone like you, his words made my heart race even faster, and before I could respond his lips were on mine, soft. At first testing, teasing, I gasped at the sensation, at the way his mouth moved against mine, slow and deliberate, as though he were savoring every moment. His kiss deepened and I felt his hands slide down my back, pulling me closer until there was no space left between us. I melted into him, my body responding to his touch, my hands sliding up his chest, feeling the hard muscles beneath his shirt. He was so strong, so solid, and the way he held me made me feel small and safe, but also alive with desire. His hands moved lower, resting on my hips as he pulled me even closer, and I could feel the heat of him, the way his body pressed against mine. The kiss grew more intense, more urgent, and I found myself losing control. My hands moved up to his neck, pulling him even closer, deepening the kiss as my body trembled with need. His touch was electric, sending waves of pleasure through me with every caress, and I felt a warmth building inside me, a fire that I hadn't felt in years. His hands slid under my shirt, his fingers grazing my bare skin, and I gasped at the sensation, my body arching into him as I craved more of his touch. He seemed to sense my need, his hands moving higher, exploring my body with a tenderness that made my heart race even faster. Every touch, every kiss felt like a new discovery, and I was lost in the sensation of him, lost in the way he made me feel. He pulled back for a moment, his eyes dark with desire, and I could see the way his chest rose and fell, his breath coming in short, shallow bursts. I could feel the same heat between us, the same tension, and I knew that we were both on the edge, both ready to give in to the overwhelming desire that had been building between us. I want you, he whispered, his voice rough with need. I want you so much. His words sent a shiver through me, and I nodded, unable to find the words to respond. I wanted him too, more than I had ever wanted anything before. His hands moved to the waistband of my pants, his fingers sliding beneath the fabric, and I gasped as he touched me, his fingers warm and gentle as they explored my body. My breath came in ragged gasps as he continued to touch me, his hands moving with the skill that made my head spin. I could feel the heat building inside me, the tension growing stronger with every passing second, and I knew that I was close, so close to losing control, but I didn't want to stop. I didn't want this to end. His hands moved lower, and I felt a jolt of pleasure course through me as he touched me, his fingers teasing, exploring, driving me wild with need. I could feel my body responding to him, every nerve ending alive with sensation, and I could barely contain the moan that escaped my lips as he continued to touch me, pushing me closer and closer to the edge. He pulled me closer, then his hands gripping my hips as he lifted me slightly, his body pressing against mine in a way that made my heart race even faster. I could feel him hard ready, and it sent a rush of desire through me that was almost too much to bear. You're incredible, he murmured, his voice thick with desire as he kissed me again, his lips moving down my neck, trailing kisses along my collarbone. His hands were everywhere, on my back, my hips, my thighs, and I could feel the heat building between us, the tension reaching a breaking point, and then finally he slid inside me. The sensation was overwhelming, a rush of pleasure that took my breath away. I gasped, my hands gripping his shoulders as he moved slow and deliberate, his body pressing against mine with every thrust. The heat between us was unbearable, the pleasure building with every movement, and I could feel myself losing control, giving in to the overwhelming sensation of him inside me. We moved together, our bodies perfectly in sync, and I could feel the tension building, the pleasure growing stronger. With every passing second his hands gripped my hips, guiding my movements as I moved with him, my breath coming in short, ragged gasp as the pleasure built to an almost unbearable level. Every thrust, every movement sent a wave of pleasure through me, and I could feel the heat between us growing stronger, the tension building to a breaking point. I was southwest, close, so close to losing control, and I could feel him right there with me, his breath hot against my neck as he moved inside me, driving me closer and closer to the edge. And then finally I shatter it. The pleasure exploded through me, a wave of sensation that left me breathless, my body trembling with the intensity of it. I gasped, my hands gripping his shoulders as he continued to move, his body pressing against mine as he pushed me higher, driving me further into the pleasure that seemed to consume me completely. He wasn't far behind, his body tensing, his breath coming in short, shallow bursts as he found his own release, the pleasure overwhelming him as he collapsed against me, his body spent, his breath ragged. We stayed like that for a moment, our bodies still entwined, our breath mingling as we tried to catch our breath. When it was over, we lay there in the clearing, the sunlight streaming down on us, our bodies still tangled together. I could feel his heartbeat against mine, the warmth of his skin against my own. And I knew that something had changed. Something deep, something that couldn't be undone. As the sunlight filtered through the branches above, I sat up, still close to him, our foreheads almost touching. What now? I asked, a mix of excitement and uncertainty in my voice. I had never imagined I would find someone like him in such an unexpected place, and yet here we were tangled together in a way that felt utterly right. His smile broadened, revealing a sense of mischief that made my heart flutter. Well, I'd like to know more about UCL. I want to hear your stories, your dreams, everything. I felt a rush of warmth at the sincerity in his voice. I could say the same about you. What brought you out here today? He paused, his expression thoughtful. I needed an escape, I suppose. Life has been complicated lately. I needed to reconnect with something real, something raw, and I found it in you. I could see the vulnerability in his eyes, and it struck a chord deep within me. I understand, I said gently, reaching out to entwine my fingers with his. Life can often feel overwhelming. Sometimes we just need to step away and breathe for a moment. We simply held each other's gaze, and I felt as if we were sharing something sacred. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring us together, two souls adrift in the world finding solace in one another. Can we stay here for a little longer? He asked, his voice almost a whisper. I don't want to rush back into reality just yet. I nodded, a smile tugging at my lips. I'd like that we settled back down, our bodies fitting together perfectly as we shared stories, each tale unfolding like the petals of a blooming flower. He told me about his life, the high and lows, the moments that shaped him into the man he was. I spoke of my own journey of love lost and the loneliness that crept in when I wasn't looking. With each word, the bond between us deepened, weaving a tapestry of intimacy that felt both fragile and unbreakable. The air was thick with the scent of pine and wild flowers, and every now and then the wind would carry the sound of distant bird song, a perfect backdrop to our exchange after what felt like hours. He leaned closer, his eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. I have to be honest, I've never felt this way before. It's like I've known you forever. I could feel my heart race at his confession, a mix of excitement and trepidation flooding through me. I feel the same, but what does this mean for us? He took a deep breath, searching my eyes for understanding. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I want to explore this connection. I want to see where it leads. A surge of hope filled me, and I smiled, feeling a sense of possibility bloom in my chest. I'd like that too. I've spent so long focusing on what I thought I wanted that I forgot to leave room for the unexpected. He grinned, his expression brightening as if my words had ignited a spark within him. Let's not overthink it. Then let's just enjoy this moment and see where it takes us. With that, he leaned in again, capturing my lips in a kiss that felt like the promise of new beginnings. It was tender yet passionate, a perfect blend of our desires and hopes, and I lost myself in the warmth of it. My fingers threaded through his hair as I deepened the kiss, feeling the world around us dissolve into nothingness as we finally pulled away, breathless and smiling. I knew that this day would forever mark a turning point in my life. The encounter with Michael had opened a door I never knew existed, leading me toward a path of new possibilities and rediscovery. With the sun sinking lower on the horizon, casting a warm glow over the clearing, I realized that the woods had offered me much more than solitude. They had gifted me a chance at love, a chance to embrace the unexpected, and as I looked into his eyes, I knew I was ready to take that chance, ready to explore the beautiful tangled path that lay ahead. The world around us faded away, leaving just the two of us, wrapped in the afterglow of an experience that felt both extraordinary and surreal. As the sun streamed through the trees, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor, I turned my head slightly to meet his gaze. His eyes, still dark with the remnants of desire, held a softness that took my breath away. It was as if he could see straight into my soul, unearthing feelings I had buried for years. In that moment, I realized it wasn't just physical attraction that sparked between us. There was a connection that transcended the confines of our encounter. You've turned my world upside down, he murmured, his voice low and tinged with wonder. I didn't expect this today or ever. Really, I smiled softly, feeling a warmth spread through my chest at his words. Neither did I. I was just looking for a quiet walk, and then you appeared. He chuckled, a deep, rich sound that reverberated through the clearing. I suppose we both wandered further than we intended. We lay there, our bodies still entwined, savoring the lingering warmth of our intimacy. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves above us, and for a moment it felt like the world outside had ceased to exist. I reached up, brushing my fingers against his jaw, marveling at the stubble beneath my fingertips. He leaned into my touch, a smile playing on his lips, and I could see the way his eyes sparkled with a mixture of mischief and sincerity. A warmth blossomed within me at his words, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a reason for our meeting. The forest around us felt alive, as if it were in on our secret. Maybe we were, I said softly, wondering if perhaps fate had conspired to bring us together at this moment.